Have you ever seen anything like that? Bangladesh have eventually picked up the points in Brisbane amidst chaos, amidst players walking off the field, the ground staff coming out to prepare for post-match rituals, whatever it may be. And in the end, the job is done by Bangladesh. Zimbabwe have dropped 2 precious points. Their semi-final campaign was a realistic one had they got the job done today and then against the Netherlands. But there's plenty to discuss as we look back at a game of chaos between Zimbabwe and Bangladesh. This is Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout. We'll also build up to Pakistan v Netherlands in a bit. It's a full house as I welcome Robin Uthappa back to our studios. Different. We've done. What do you like? What we've done with the place?
Yes, it looks really nice.
And with Tom Moody in the studio, it always looks a bit cramped, but that's not because of 6'6" Tom Moody.
What are you trying to say?
Just saying, we have a really tiny studio.
Oh,
compact.
okay, that's
Posing
good. That's
figure,
good.
Tom.
Compact.
That's good.
Compact. Have you two worked together ever in the past? I don't think
No,
you would have, right?
always against
Say
each
hi
other.
to each other. Come on, be
Yeah.
nice.
Okay.
We've been nice.
We'll be very nice. Yeah.
We'll be nice to you as well, bro.
So,
Well, no. That's
what did I do? Yeah. Normally, an India-Australia sort of rivalry tends to heat up at some point. I'm hoping you two are more evolved than that.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to get it heated
nonsense.
up.
We are not that kind of show. We are perhaps the only show that is not like that. Right? I will get thoughts from Andy Fla in just a moment. I will also hear from Urooj Mumtaz, who shall join us as we build up to Pakistan, Netherlands. But I must ask both of you, have you ever seen something like that? Something so bizarre where teams have shaken hands, walked off the field only to be called back by the umpires? Tom?
certainly not at this level. But there's a few things I've seen this World Cup that you haven't seen before. But yeah, no, extraordinary. Just the emotional roller coaster for spectators, for the players, because we all know how much this game meant to both teams.
Yes.
It was a critical game, but again, it just shows you just some of the simple fundamentals of the game you can't ignore. We've seen, the controversy of, if you want to now call it controversy, around the non-striking, run out. All these things, the small details are critical, and that's just a very small detail. Robin's probably the expert, given that he's worn gloves, certainly more than I have worn gloves behind the stumps, but that's just a small detail that you need to be right on top of.
This has actually happened to you. Tell us about that. Yeah.
Oh, so I think the 2014 Champions League, KKR were playing CSK and Suresh Raina was batting, Kuldeep Yadav was bowling. And I think he was batting on about 35, 40 or so. And Kuldeep bowled a nice little leg spinner. And he stepped out and he missed it. And I was just exactly like that, just a tad bit in front. I got him stumped and was given no ball. He went on to get 100, Suresh Raina.
Wow.
And that bit we lost in that
That's
Champions
terrible.
League. Yeah,
How did
yeah.
you do that? That's terrible. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
Was there a reaction from, who was your coach and captain at the time? This
Trevor
would be
Bayliss
Trevor
and
Bayliss.
Gautam Gambhir.
Yeah.
Well, they were fine. They were all right. They
Nothing.
were okay. But it pinched me for a long time.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. You're so eager.
Yeah.
That it
You're
just-
just a little too eager. And that can happen in intense situations in big games. I think that's exactly what happened today. It was just a tad bit in front. And yeah, it can put, if it doesn't go your way, it can haunt you for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as it turns out, we would have been discussing this more as a key moment or a pivotal moment had Zimbabwe got the runs they needed. As it turns out, Bangladesh have got lucky in spite of that little mishap with the no ball and the stumping. But what an opportunity lost, Andy Flower, for Zimbabwe. It was there, wasn't there, this game for the taking?
An emotional roller coaster, Tom described it as, and it was so frustrating to watch that chase from this perspective. As you say, like Zimbabwe had still has, I suppose, but prior to this game, had such a great opportunity to get into a World Cup semi-final, beating Bangladesh and the Netherlands. Those were their most likely points targets, and 150 on this pitch was eminently gettable. So it was really frustrating to see that little bit of skittishness and the sort of panicky feel we got from their fielding in the first innings. That was just an indicator of how they were going to bat up front, and that's exactly what happened. I'm afraid. The lack of composure, the lack of solidity, the lack of really clear thinking, I think, it has cost them dearly. And as well as Sean Williams and Ryan Burl did in their partnership, they were always sort of behind the game then. The Bangladeshis did a good job. Their top seamers, Taskin and Mustafiz, who are really experienced now, they did excellent jobs with the ball. And as did Shakib in the field, a great catch at mid-off, important catch, diving catch, and then a great run out at a pivotal moment in the game. So frustrating to watch those points disappear.
It's normally so objective, Andy, because he's coaching around the world where there's little at stake for Zimbabwe cricket. You're sensing some emotion there, aren't you, Tom?
I think he's hurting.
Definitely hurting, yeah.
I've known Andy for a long time. I think he's hurting. I don't think he's hurting. He is hurting.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely right. There were so many moments that if they kept their, calm and coolness through the back end of that game, they could have and should have won that, even though they were 4 for 35.
Yeah.
And you don't really see too many teams in a chase win too many games when you lose 4 wickets in that power play.
Yes, Robbie, please.
In that sense, it was a very similar game to that India-Pakistan game,
it was,
right?
yeah.
So I think Zimbabwe had to do everything right without making any errors to try and pull off this game. And they were 80 for 5 when I checked the score.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they have to get everything right here. They can't even make a single error. And they brought it down. And in fact, in the last 2 overs, they needed lesser than what India needed against Pakistan. Yeah. And, I thought there was a slight error in judgment. For me, to bowl an off-spinner in the last over of a game is a no-no. I'd rather give it to a fast bowler, but I think they didn't have any fast bowlers.
Sarkar would have been the option.
Would have been the option.
Yeah.
He's done that job for Bangladesh in the past, but I think
he's also not done that job for Bangladesh in the past, as we remember.
Yeah, so I think Shakib backed his gut, and rightfully so. And I think the game-changing moment for me was Sean Williams' run out.
Yes.
Just the way Shakib got that run out done in the second last over.
I was just
was
going
phenomenal.
to say, you say everything had to go right for them, but they also need the element of luck. India needed those buys of the free hit to fall for 3. India needed a marginal no ball call going their way. Zimbabwe didn't get the marginal call. They got a little bit of luck in the form of that error from Nurul behind the stumps, but they couldn't capitalize on it. That Shakib run out, let me just take you through that. Most extraordinary thing. It's so hard for someone to do what he's executed there.
Oh, absolutely. And if you actually watch that run out, you can see just before he threw it, he just held himself for like half a second. There's a lot of balance before he released that ball. I think that gave him the best chance to hit the stumps, and he had a small target to aim at, and he hit it absolutely bang on.
I mean, it's a superstar moment for a superstar cricketer.
The other thing to take note is that it was on his wrong side.
Yes.
Shakib is a predominantly left-handed bat, bowler, thrower. It was on his wrong side, so he had to do a full spin, which also get the composure, get the balance, so he's got a chance. He had 1.5 stumps to throw at.
Yeah.
And he absolutely nailed it. A lot easier for a right-hander to slide onto that ball and be in an easier position to be able to throw the stumps down. So there was a lot of special things around that run out.
And Sean Williams, he looked the best he's looked in a while. Sean Williams, he's been such a great servant of Zimbabwe cricket, but he's lost his batting form just a touch. Today he was at his peak. He was finding the gaps. You felt like if Sean Williams stayed till the end, it would have been a different result. But it's fair to say, as Andy Flower points out, they were always behind the game. So we look back at that power play, 35 for 4, and we had Andy articulate so well how they needed to just keep calm, not panic. I'd love to ask the coaches and the batters what happens here, because you've seen Madhavira get out first over, Tom. Then you've seen Craig Irvine next over. You're clearly telling the guy going after that, right? Steady down, calm down. You've seen Shumba go for a shot, not clear, out. Sikandar Raza try and hit his second ball, 10 rows back into the stands. At some point, I'm thinking the message is just not getting delivered, or what's happened? What's happened there? Why couldn't somebody arrest that collapse earlier?
I think it's a classic example of pressure in big moments. People not sort of stepping out of the moment and realising what's required here, and just being prepared to sit in the game for a period of time, knowing that if they do absorb a little bit of that pressure, whether it be 10, 15 balls, that they're not only getting set themselves in those conditions, but they're settling the team. It just seems that, I think Andy used the word skittish, they were very skittish, and was like, oh gosh, we got a chance, let's get it done quickly. If we can get a good power play, we're away and we can win this game. It's a case of, well, you're not going to win it that way, because we know the threat in those conditions was going to be the new ball, the bounce, the pace, the possible movement. Let's just sit in the game a bit, absorb that pressure and be comfortable with being 35 for one. That's okay. We might be 5 or 10 runs behind the game, but we know the way this game unfolds, we're going to be able to chase it down.
So for me, I think this is one of the issues I have with an out-and-out aggressive kind of approach, right? You can do that when you're batting first, and there's certain times when you need to rein it back a little bit and just play the situation. Like for me, and I think that's been the mindset of the Zimbabweans. And when I was in Zimbabwe, just doing some broadcasting work in that series against India, and they were very vocal about how they want to approach their cricket. And there has to be a sense of maturity about it. You can't just go blindly being aggressive all the time. Someone has to take stock and read a situation, And I think that's something that they haven't done in a big match situation like this. And they would have actually done themselves a massive favor if they just decided, like someone like Sikandar Raza just decided, you know what, let me just take my time, get set. Yeah. Let me just bat to the end, irrespective of winning or losing. That mindset, just to have that maturity at that point in time is critical in a team's chances to qualify to a semi-final of a World Cup.
I was going to pose the question on whether they could have perhaps gone back to how they started the tournament, Andy. They changed their batting order. Rajesh Chakava batted in the middle. I know he was short of runs, but he seemed to be the one guy who was trying to rebuild, get it in ones and twos. They put Milton Shumba at 3. He's a different kind of number 3. But then I guess that question answers itself when Sikandar Raza plays that sort of shot, because he's an experienced player. I'm just trying to think of whether Zimbabwe could have done anything else tactically, or would it have probably yielded the same result with the sort of panic and pressure with which they approached the power play?
Well, we don't know. We won't know the answer to that question. But I don't think batting order-wise, or the order in which they were coming in was the issue. It was more the mindset with which a number of the batsmen approached the chase. It's really important as a batsman to be able to trust your game. When you have genuine self-confidence in your game, you don't have to rush too much. And it's why you see some of the top batsmen, they get described as having time to play the ball. Well, they aren't in a state of anxiety rushing to get the ball away. They know that their game is good enough, once the bowler lets go of the ball, that they've trained themselves up well enough to then dispatch it on the merits of the ball that's been bowled. And even in T20 cricket or T10 cricket, those principles still hold true. Yes, you predetermine some shots, of course, but that trusting your game enough to say, I'm good enough to score these runs if I stay in long enough. That's a really important part of batting. And I thought the whole body language of the Zimbabwe batsmen didn't exude that self-confidence, that they felt they could do it if they played in a strong and composed manner. It felt like a bit like Tom's just described. Let's let a quick go and see what happens. And if it doesn't work for me, I hand over the responsibility to someone else. That's not the way good teams win games. So I think I'd like to see them learn from this and see some of that composure and trusting their games a little more in the games to come.
All right, just quickly as we wrap the chat around this game, now that Zimbabwe have ended up on the wrong side of the result, perhaps worth revisiting just a few tactical calls made in the first half. I wonder if it's going to be part of their review, but Blessing Muzarabani, well before he had that chaotic 2-ball moment at the end, Tom, got 2 wickets in 2 overs, didn't come back to bowl. I've seen a lot of Twitter chat on why Craig Irvine chose to go for so much spin on the day. Can we look at fine moments like that in What's a Game of Fine Moments?
Yeah, like I think with hindsight, we're all experts, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to... But when you're out in the middle, you make a judgment on a call on what you think the right matchup is at that time, and it can be seen as a genius stroke, or it could be seen as, well, we've missed a trick here. So I think it's very easy to sit on the couch and call it after the event. I'm sure that they'll look back at every single moment that's happened in this game and reflect and review. To me, the biggest standout, the 2 biggest standouts from Zimbabwe's point of view is an unusual fielding performance from their standards, and secondly, just the panic around their batting.
Shall we give credit to Bangladesh? There'll be a lot of Bangladesh fans saying you're just making this about Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Zimbabwe messing this up. I mean, they bowled well.
Yeah, I think they bowled well as well. I think Taskin Ahmad, Mustafizur bowled extremely well, and I read an interview about Taskin saying that they have a lot of confidence in their abilities as a fast bowling unit, and they really want to produce a very good fast bowling unit, and they actually played the part today. So you got to give credit where it's due, and I think they bowled exceptionally well. They handled pressure better than Zimbabwe, obviously, barring from that one error I think in the last ball, but I think they played exceptional cricket today.
Yeah, their fast bowling seems to be their strength here, Tom, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Alan Donald's their fast bowling coach, so he's a pretty good mentor to have. It's certainly an area of strength for them. Two experienced bowlers as well, the two, Tuscan and also Fizz, are both very, very experienced, been around the traps a long time, and they delivered at the big moment. So that certainly is a positive sign for them. And Santo, the way that Santo batted at the top, I thought that was a really good sign for them. He, I thought, summed up the conditions really well and batted accordingly. They've got a few other pieces that need to join up with regards to their batting. That's probably why we're not sort of speaking overly glowingly about Bangladesh. Is we know that they're a better team than what we're seeing at the moment. There's a few pieces that need to fall into place, but maybe today's, the confidence they needed as a group that they can take forward and they'll grow from it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that points table, they're actually 2 wins out of 3. So we're not really speaking of Bangladesh as serious threats or contenders for the semi-finals, but they've got the tough games coming up, India and Pakistan. But they've at least got the job done, 2 out of 3. So I think they would have planned as well. Between India, Pakistan, South Africa, we need to win 2. They got hammered against South Africa, which perhaps is the reason we're talking about them in this tone. But they've got the job done. So well done to them. And between Tashkent and Mustafizur, 8 overs, 5 for 34. That's pretty much the game there. So Bangladesh pick up the points, job done. But Zimbabwe continue to be this story that give us plenty to enjoy and discuss and talk about. Urooj, Mumtaz must be wondering though why they didn't slip up the other night. They could have got this result today, but I guess we're really enjoying Zimbabwe. Maybe we enjoy it from a neutral perspective. Urooj, today did you enjoy it more than the other night?
Yeah, I thought I fancied them looking how Sean Williams batted towards the back end, and I just thought he could pull it over the line. But Shakib Ul Hasan in a brilliant run out, I thought that changed it. But all comments I think completely agreed with. I think it was Zimbabwe's game there, but I think they just slipped up. So.
Yeah, I'd like for you to just give me a sense of what social media has been like. Are people still going on and on about Zimbabwe, Pakistan? I know that the president of Zimbabwe has gotten involved. There's a lot of Mr. Bean humor that we're watching as well. Is that still active 3 days later?
Well, our Prime Minister, I think, went back as well with some sort. But I think that kind of banter continues as long as it's taken in a good stride. I think for Pakistan, what's gone is gone. They can't change that. They will have to obviously look at the fine errors that they made, which cost them in both games. And they just have to look ahead now. They have to keep it simple. They're playing against, obviously, not a big side, if I may say that. So, but still, we've seen this World Cup, and I've said this time and again, this World Cup is full of surprises because everybody's got their A game out. So they can't take anything for granted, but they have to keep it simple. They've got to control what's in their control, and they need to adapt to the situation very quickly, which is somewhere where they faltered at Perth when they were bowling up front. The batting chase was completely baffling because you would have backed Pakistan to chase 130. A little bit of game awareness with the longer square boundaries. But I think given their second game at Perth, they will probably come back clear in the head, which is probably what is required at this point. Filter out whatever else is being said around the world.
Yes, that's the thing. That's the challenge for Pakistan cricket. Urooj, Mumtaz did make the point last time that even the team in 92 learned to peak at the right time. So now that they've lost to Zimbabwe, you know Pakistan are going to win every other game, probably go all the way now. So this is the time. They need to start at the Perth Stadium. That's where the next 2 games are. So Pakistan and the Netherlands, where the Dutch have won the toss, and they're going to be batting first. We'll come to changes made to Scott Edwards' side in a moment. But Pakistan make a very significant change of their own. Fakhar Zaman, the story of Fakhar Zaman continues to intrigue. Left out after the Asia Cup, and Shan Masood got a nice long run in. Fakhar then was part of the reserve squad when injuries hit him and was named as a replacement player once Usman Qadir was ruled out. So they replaced Alegi with a top order batter, and you thought that it will be between Shan and Fakhar that one of them would eventually be a position that Pakistan settle in. They've decided to go with both. Out goes Haider Ali in the only change to that team that just slipped up against Zimbabwe towards the end. Makes for a fascinating conversation with our panel. So let's get straight into it. Make sense of that, Tom?
Makes perfect sense. Experience, he's got power. He's got a power game that we've talked about with Pakistan's top order is missing. There's certainly quality there, but not that sort of impact power player that you need. I'd like to see Fakhar at the top of the order, opening the batting. That to me would make a lot of sense. And I know there's a lot of discussion around breaking up the current opening pair and how well they've done, but it's a case of what does the team need to win this World Cup? And to me, they need a power hitter, and it's a bonus that he's left-hander as well at the top of the order.
We spent the Asia Cup where Mickey Arthur was calling for this change, that we need to split Babar and Rizwan at the top. Do you still endorse that view?
Absolutely, and I'd love to know from probably Urooj as to why they're still persisting with the two of them at the top of the order. I understand they've done well.
Well, we don't know. Maybe today they change it, but we don't know if they do it today.
Yeah. You imagine, because it feels like a commonsensical thing to do. Bring in a right and left hand combination, and one is a power hitter, one someone who kind of plays that sheet anchor role. Then you have one of them come at number 3, or if a wicket falls early, or left-hander gets out, and you send the left-hander in, so you have that continuity there with the right and left-hander batting there, because that's a massive advantage in the T20 game, because the bowler has to keep changing his lines, and they're just not using that. It's baffling actually.
Okay, let's get Urooj and even Andy Flower to come into this one. Urooj, let me come to you first up. Do you welcome the selection? Would you prefer Asif Ali coming in for Haider Ali? And what happens to that batting order now with Fakhar, Shan Masood and Rizwan and Babar in the top 4?
No, so if someone had to come in, it had to be Fakhar instead of Haider Ali. I'm pretty sure Asif Ali doesn't trump Fakhar, so Fakhar gets in for sure. And I completely again agree with what the panel is saying, pretty much what a lot of people are saying, which is a left and right hand combination, and stats don't lie. The amount of times Fakhar and Babar have opened, the stats have been much better, because that takes away the pressure from Babar slightly, because Fakhar does take the charge. He likes the pace coming on Fakhar, and Babar and Rizwan both have a very similar sort of play. Both want to get in, hence why the average power play scores for Pakistan are well below par. I think we're ranked second last in that table, where other teams are going at 9. Pakistan's probably going at 6.5. And there's no really firepower in them. They don't improvise around at the crease. So they're very sort of conventional in their power play. And then they try to bat longer and deeper, which I feel, in my opinion, adds more pressure onto that middle order, which is so talked about, giving them lesser balls to play and asking of them to hit out every time and going at more than 10 or 12 runs and over. So it's almost a combination which works when you're playing in the subcontinent, where the ball's not bouncing, not doing that much, when things are in your control, especially when they're chasing. But I just feel Fakhar has to open with Babar. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't see them making the brave call in the World Cup, although I don't see why not, because it's do or die for Pakistan. They have to get all guns blazing now. And then with Rizwan and Shan coming further in, you provide that experience, and then you have that flexible batting order with Nawaz and another left-hander in the mix as well.
Okay, fascinating. A lot of different viewpoints. And if there is a game to try things, it's this one, with due respect. It's not like Pakistan can afford to experiment, but you don't expect them to slip up against the Netherlands. Andy Flower, you've heard the thoughts of the rest of the panel. You work closely with someone like Rizwan as well. Assigned role clarity for me, please, and how you'd shape up their top 4.
Well, role clarity is really important when you're setting up a team, and for the players to understand what their roles are and to practice them. So going into World Cups, you want that. You want your players to feel completely clear about their roles and the people around them as well. However, I do agree with all the other comments that have been already made about Fakhar and where he bats. A left-handed, right-hand combination makes sense. He's got tons of experience, and then you can keep the left-right thing going thereafter as well with the options they've got. Completely logical to bring in Fakhar instead of Haider Ali, who's a talented young guy, but he's struggled for quite a long time to produce the results. So perfectly logical decision there. But, teams don't like changing mid-tournament. Coaches don't like it. Captains don't like it. And sometimes players also seize on if you haven't got a very strong dressing room environment, if you open up a little crack like that and things don't go well, players can seize on little late changes like that as evidence of poor planning, poor strategizing in the first place. So it's a delicate balance to get, whether you stick with your original plan or to change and be flexible. And I suspect that they will keep Rizwan and the skipper up front.
All right, we'll leave it there. Andy Fly, you got some sleep to catch up on? Shall we leave you to it?
I'm just about to go for a run, actually. I'm being dragged out by my brother, who's younger and fitter than I. So I'm going to sleep later.
Yeah, good luck with that.
All right, Andy, more from you as the Zimbabwe games come our way. Big thank you to Andy Flower. Urooj, Mumtaz, we pick up the chat at halftime. Quick prediction, Netherlands are batting first. What sort of score would Pakistan be happy to keep them down to? Please don't say 130.
I don't think Pakistan will want to be anywhere near the 130 mark. But I think anything below 135, 140, again, Pakistan with the batting order, with the kind of experience they have, it should be, I dare not say this, but it should be an easy chase.
Oh, it's so. I feel for Pakistan followers and fans.
It's only Pakistan can play like that.
Yeah.
You know, with the kind of talent that they have. When I saw that result, I was like, man, only Pakistan have done this to their fans and observers of cricket over the world.
They're going to win the World Cup, surely, Tom.
Well,
that's how it works.
You'd never write them off. They've got the personnel to do it. They just need the pieces falling into place, and we've talked about some of those pieces.
All right, quick first innings prediction.
130.
130. Wow. All right, Robbie.
Yeah, 123.
Okay, nice and precise. We leave it there. Big thank you to Robin Uthappa, Tom Moody, and Urooj Mumtaz, as well as Andy Flower. We've got a lot more cricket. We're not even halfway there in the day. So Pakistan v Netherlands at Perth, followed by India, South Africa. Join us at the end of the Dutch innings on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout.